Hi, Erik Johnson. Live in DeWitt, and this is a commercial worm farm. Each of the buckets you see here have about 250 worms in each bucket, and every 2 weeks they'll eat all the material in the bucket, and at the end of those 2 weeks you'll have castings or worm manure. The worms look like this inside of each bucket. You'll see these here, and then this is the feed they eat, right? And after 2 weeks of eating, you get these bags over here. And inside of these bags, you'll see what looks like rich black dirt, which is worm castings. And this is what you just saw after the worm eats and runs this through basically the worm gut. And this has all the microbes to create good soil health. It's called a soil amendment, not necessarily fertilizer, because the fertilizer NPK in this material is very low, but the microbes that are in this material are very, very high. All right, so each of these buckets has about 250-ish worms. We don't count them all. We use a measurement container every 2 weeks when we put them back in. So this operation here with the buckets that we have in here and the buckets we have outside has about 700,000 worms. So in here is a climate controlled room. We leave the lights on all the time, and we have the ceiling fans going all the time to move air. We keep the temperature in the winter right around 65 to 68 degrees, and we keep the humidity up at 65 to 68%. Worms depend on temperature and humidity, right? That's the two most important things that they care about. More moisture is better. Too moist won't kill them, but too dry, and they literally will shrivel up and use all the moisture in their bodies and turn crusty and go away. I know that because the first batch I bought, I cooked. I didn't have the humidity right, temperature was right, but after 4 weeks, all of a sudden I had 4 worms left out of 4,000. So in the summer, we run the temperature up a little higher. These worms are tolerant to degrees up of 80 degrees. Doesn't make them happy, but they won't die. So we run the temperature up around 72, 73 degrees. And then in the summer, putting humidity into this space is somewhat difficult because we have to air condition the space. Air conditioning sucks humidity out. We're putting humidity in, trying to keep the temperature up. So we have to find a fine line of how much humidity we can throw in while the air conditioner keeps the temperature down by sucking humidity out. So it's it's harder to regulate in the summer than in the winter. But we can go up a little bit higher in temperature, and it seems to help. So in this rack, we have these trays, and we found that I got advice from an old timer that said it was easier to regulate humidity and temperature of soil in these bigger trays for smaller worms. So these trays all have originally eggs from the worms, and then these eggs over the period of about 12 weeks hatch, grow, get bigger, stronger, a little more tough, and then from these trays we put them into these buckets that you see here. Once they're in the buckets, 16 weeks from baby to bucket, they're mostly big enough to handle the process to go through the machine without just getting torn up because their bodies are so delicate. So these buckets all have adult size hardy worms in them. So in these trays you have we put a layer of eggs along the bottom. This tray has been going for about 2 months, so about 8 weeks. And as I pull back the dirt, you'll see the different size worms. Worms don't like light, so you gotta kind of be pretty quick. But as you see, you'll see a couple. You'll see a bigger worm like this, which might be, call him an 8-week worm. And then you will see smaller worms. So, and they're pretty tiny, but I'll grab this little guy here, which is, you know, maybe a 3 or 4 week worm, a smaller worm. So, and different sizes throughout this entire, what we call hatch trays. And as we go, we try and get them as large as possible in this environment. So then we move them to a bucket environment, where they then become adult worms and can handle the machine. All right. So this here is the harvester that we use to separate the worms from the castings and the eggs. So as you can see, this part here, this first 6 foot has 1/8 inch screen. This is where all the castings fall out of and then are conveyed up this section here and drop into a sack. This second part here is 1/4 inch screen. This is where the eggs or the cocoons fall out of, and we collect them underneath. And then this back section here is where some we call trash, which is just worms. Can't eat everything in the bucket. There's some stuff that comes out, and then the worms drop into the other side. Yeah, here, you'll get a bunch coming. So once the material is run through the machine and the castings are collected, we put them in these storage bags, and then we sell at farmers markets, and we sell to large vegetable growers, the folks that are growing 1,500-pound pumpkins and 80-pound cantaloupes. And then we also wholesale to a company called Grand Mound Organics that makes this soil blend, where they take castings as a portion of this soil blend and then sell this bag at retail nurseries. So this bag you can find at Green Thumbers nursery down in Davenport.